Hello, Governor. Becca Habiger, ABC 10 News. We know many Californians are waiting on the final round of the Golden State stimulus checks, which of course are in the process of going out right now. And many families, however, are still hurting. So especially with the projected surplus that you have told us about, can Californians expect to see more direct payments coming this upcoming fiscal year? And if so, might eligibility expand to include even more Californians?
Well, as you know, no other state in U.S. history has ever provided $12 billion at the state level of tax rebates. And that's what we are committed to doing. We've done the vast majority, as you suggest. There are still some that are waiting those checks, and look forward to getting those in their accounts very shortly. So that is something without precedent. Now, to your question, should they or expect more? That's an open-ended question. I am currently, and this is a question perhaps you'll be asking later to our budget team, but let me respond before it's specifically even asked. We project on the basis of the January budget that we will exceed what we refer to as the GAN limit by $2.6 billion. Now, as you may know, that $2.6 billion, half of it roughly goes to education. The other half has to go back to the taxpayers. So that's a more specific response to your question about potential tax relief or contributions of excess tax revenue going back to the people of the state of California. Now, the reason I didn't highlight that is that number will that number will substantially, most likely substantially change between now and May. And so we are awaiting more contemporary information and data, more reflected of what is currently happening before we had to put this budget to bed to ultimately make that determination. My sense is, to your question, that yes, there likely will be substantial contributions back to the taxpayers. What form they come in, we'll work with the legislature, and to what degree, in terms of total amounts of dollars, will be determined more closely in May. I also want to note, it's important, I know many people believe that our reserves are not as high as they should be. I agree with you. But I hope they also would agree with me that in order to get those reserves where they need to go, we need a constitutional amendment to reform our reserve system. And right now, I'll give you an example. We reached the 10% constitutional threshold, and there's an additional $2.4 billion pursuant to the Constitution that needs to go for infrastructure investment. That's a good investment, but for those that would prefer those dollars to be in that account, it would require some changes to the Constitution that are much more nuanced than what I'm presenting. But the GAN limit, the constitutional caps, all of these things will become, I think, more clear, will be indeed more clear in the May revise, and will be more specific in terms of being able to respond to your question.
Thank you. Quick follow-up in regard to avoiding hitting the GAN limit. Would you personally be in favor of, if there is that money to give back to the taxpayers, having that come in the form of direct payments to families rather than, say, investing further in education, but giving it to families in those direct payments?
Well, I'm very proud of the education investments. I think there was a lot of wisdom in maintaining that space. We still have a lot of work to do in the education space, as you know, and I know, and every family in this state knows, and providing choice. And so much of our budget is about providing choice before, after school, summer school programs, the choice to send your kids to high quality pre-K, community schools, enhancements, and all the other choices that we're now availing to families in this year and last year's budget. As it relates to the GAN limit, I am open to reforms and discussions. That said, the frame that is advanced is the one that we are advancing, meaning the rules of the road are well established. And so we estimate January budget, that $2.6 billion, 2.4 above the constitutional cap for infrastructure on the basis of the reserves, will be set aside. Again, May, it will change, and to the extent we will reform, I look forward to working with stakeholders, including parents and leaders across the spectrum in this state, to determine what that reform should look like.